Greetings, Internet. Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be talking about pseudoarchaeology. So, my last video I did was called The Anunnaki and the Watchers of the Bible. And YouTube put a context box under it. Now, it's not, what's interesting about that is it doesn't come up on my phone, but it comes up on the internet. But not if I'm using the internet on my phone for some reason. But it has this little blue box going to Wikipedia. And by the way, the co-founder of Wikipedia, who resigned, now denounces it as a leftist propaganda website. Just, keep that in mind. Because it is. They build themselves as the online encyclopedia that anybody can edit. Well, anybody who's like a pseudo-skeptic, admin, atheist can edit it. Yeah, sure. Otherwise, they lock the page down and they don't let anyone do anything. Like, it's useless. If whatever subject you're looking up is not politicized, sure, it's got good information. It's ridiculous how much information they have on just like sports trivia or anime. It's like, or anything. Like, there's so many subjects that they just have volumes of information on, and yet stuff that it's weird. I don't care, really. Whatever. If you want to have pages and pages of information on sports trivia, cool. Knock yourself out. Put every piece of data you can on that. But you cannot possibly, anything that's been politicized, it's their point of view. And it's like this, it's either just a leftist point of view or like this far left progressive radical point of view. Because I brought up the Anunnaki, so it has this little box and it goes to Wikipedia's page of the Anunnaki, and it talks about them in Sumerian, Mesopotamian mythology. And then it has this whole section of pseudoarchaeology and conspiracy theory. And so it's like, oh yeah, it's all pseudoarchaeology, isn't it? So you go to the click on that. Click on pseudoarchaeology and just go and see what that page says. Here's what it says. I'll tell you. Now, I've been into alternative history for a long time, for like decades. I actually have more science books, and I have more history books, and I have more books on religion than I do alternative history. But I have over 150 science books. I have over 150 religion books. I believe I'm over 150 on history. That's kind of a subject I've more recently gotten into. But I'm definitely over 100 on that, if not over 150. Some of those are the science books behind me. That's just, there's a shelf there, there's a shelf there, there's a shelf below that, and there's a shelf below that, and there's science books inside that thing too. So I've got a lot of science books. And I'm not anti-science. I'm anti-scientism, the religion of science. And we've been in the dark age. The new dark age officially dawned in 2020. And boy, we're spiraling down the drain. Like, it is bad out there. It's scary out there. Like, it's a matter of time before you can't talk about alternative history. It is a matter of time before that will be wiped off the face of the internet. Mark my words, it will happen. They're not going to, it started in 2020 with let's start scrubbing information. You wanted to look up to see, oh, should I look up a scientific study and see, I can't even talk about it. They'll take this video down if I talk about let me just tell you something. There were scientific studies that made it clear the effectiveness of certain precautionary measures. Made it crystal clear. There is no doubt. And those scientific papers were pulled, and funded scientific papers by people with vested interest in it were put in their place. And then you would say, oh, well, this is going to help me in this situation. It's not. It won't. You don't. We're in a new dark age. I mean, there's no way around it. We are, it is a matter of time before you can't talk about alternative history. It is a matter of time. That is considered misinformation. History is written by the victors, and how dare you have a different opinion than what the victors told you your history is, people. Don't you know that? You misinformation spreaders. Yeah, this is what they call alternative history. Now, to me, alternative history is, oh, well, look at this. All these cultures around the world have their own histories. We tell them that they are wrong, that their own histories are wrong, that they're superstitions and falsehoods and fabrications and fanciful ideas of primitive minds. That's your history. And who's telling you that? I'll tell you who's telling you that. The victors. The winners of World War II are telling you what your history is. How dare you have your own histories? That is a fan. That is no longer a fan. Anyways, if you go to Pseudoarchaeology, I was getting so hot that the fan just kicked in automatically. So they call it fringe archaeology. Alternative history is fringe archaeology. It's cult archaeology. It's spooky archaeology. It's I think that's a bad word. I can't say it. Bull crap archaeology would be the nice way of putting it. That's all on that page for pseudoarchaeology. That's what the other terms for it are, officially. I happen to think, well, gee, all these cultures are talking about, the gods, all of them. This is our common collective history. We know that human civilization begins at agriculture. All of these quote-unquote myths talk about the golden age of paradise where everyone's living in these agricultural garden paradises. And it's run by the gods. But that's no. You can't believe that. You can't have your own histories. Those are myths. They've redefined mythology, just like they've redefined a lot of things in the Dark Age. In the New Dark Age, everything is subject to redefinition to whatever the whims of the victors want it to be. So this is going to have to be a 2-part video, I guess. So here's what I think about the ideas of myths, these myths of the gods and these myths of this golden age of paradise, and these common myths that are common to all the cultures around the world. That somehow you people with your own, you indigenous people with your own histories, how dare you? We know your history. We're gonna do radiometric dating on an artifact and come up with a new history based on data and scientific analysis and whatever we say it is. And you can't even, it's like, here's a perfect example. Alexander the Great. All we have is written records for him. Now, if you go on Wikipedia, it'll say we have some inscriptions, but no one knows when those inscriptions were written. We have no way of knowing. We can't date stone. You can try to say, oh, this certain style, blah, 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 but that's really loosey-goosey stuff. I would like to quote Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval, who write, "It is a convention amongst modern scholars that myths do not count as historical evidence. Yet, there are several well-known cases in archaeology where myths that had been dismissed as unhistorical were later proved to be entirely accurate. One example concerns the world-famous Troy of Homer's Iliad, a great prose poem compiled from earlier sources circa 800 BC. Until not long ago, most scholars were convinced that Troy was a mythical city, i.e., entirely a figment of Homer's fertile imagination. In 1871, however, the buccaneer German explorer Heinrich Schliemann proved orthodox opinion wrong when he followed geographical clues contained in the Iliad and discovered Troy in western Turkey near the Dardanelles, the ancient Hellespont, exactly where Homer said it was located. Schliemann and two other intrepid researchers, the Greek scholar Kalokeiranios and British archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans, then went on to cap this achievement by following up myths concerning the great Minoan civilization that was said to have existed on the island of Crete. These myths, too, were dismissed as unhistorical by orthodox opinion, but were vindicated when Schliemann and his team excavated the remains of a highly advanced culture now firmly identified as that of the Minoans. Similarly, in the Indian subcontinent, the great body of ancient Sanskrit scriptures known as the Rig Veda contains repeated references to high civilizations living in fortified cities. Again, these references were universally dismissed as mythical, until, that is, the ruins of the great Indus Valley cities such as Harappa and Mohenjo-daro began to be unearthed in the 20th century. In short, the record shows that whole cities and civilizations which were once classified as mythical and therefore of no historical interest have a habit of again and again of suddenly materializing from the mists of obscurity and becoming historical realities. Well, that's not all. There's like the city of Faunus that was recently discovered that was considered mythical. Sodom and Gomorrah was considered mythical, firmly identified now. Capernaum, Chorazin, Bethesda, all these cities were mythical, whether biblical or in Greek myth or whatever. So this is what constitutes pseudoarchaeology: creation science, the idea that the earth is young and has a flood, the paleocontact hypothesis, also known as ancient alien astronauts, anything that takes myths as history, Atlantis, the Star Child skull, archaeocryptography, where you analyze stone monuments and assume that there's mathematical relationships in there. Pyramidology, same kind of thing with the pyramids. You have these incredible things that engineers say are better than modern tolerances and are more accurate than modern buildings as far as their alignment goes, but they couldn't possibly have any mathematical meaning to them. And they just happen to randomly have pi and phi easily deductible by its measurements. It's associated with New Age and Neo-Pagan stuff. Pre-Columbian transoceanic contact is considered pseudo-archaeology. I thought that was well established and well embraced by them, but apparently not. Afrocentrism, can't have that one. Can't have the idea that Africa has some important civilizations out there. And then the critiques against these people are they're not professional archaeologists. They reject or ignore accepted data gathering and analytical methods. They have scientifically insubstantial theories. They exaggerate the evidence, dramatic or romanticized conclusions, fallacious arguments, fabrication of evidence, misuse of logic. sensationalism, misunderstanding of the scientific method, internal contradictions, anti-reason, anti-science, short-term financial gain, conspiracy theories, intuition, hunches, nationalist dogma, hyper-nationalism, racism, hate, Nazism, Aryanism, master race, white supremacy, colonialism, oppression of indigenous people, religious dogma, Hindu Christian fundamentalism, Hindu fundamentalism,